Hello and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Good morning. We've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace, said US President Donald Trump regarding the process of ending the war in Ukraine. He made the remarks during his first address to Congress since returning to office.
I received an important letter from President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
While the US President addressed Congress on Tuesday, the Ukrainian President addressed Ukrainians. Ukraine and the US deserve a respectful dialogue and a partnership-based relationship, said Volodymyr Zelenskyy in his nightly message in the aftermath of Donald Trump's decision to halt military support for the war-torn country.
Today, many people have one question. What will happen next with US aid? I have instructed Ukraine's Minister of Defense, intelligence chiefs and diplomats to contact their counterparts in the United States and obtain official information. People should not have to guess. Ukraine and America deserve a respectful dialogue and a clear position from one another, especially when it comes to protecting lives in the midst of a full-scale war. Of course, in Ukraine we have been receiving various signals for weeks now, and there has already been a precedent for aid being halted. Humanitarian aid was stopped, energy assistance was stopped. Military aid was also paused at the end of January, but at that time it was quickly resumed. We saw the risks. That is why our military and special services have developed action plans for any possible scenario. This is not 2022 anymore. Today, our resilience is stronger. We have means of protection, but we value a normal, partnership-based relationship with the US for the sake of bringing a real end to this war. None of us wants an endless war.
From the very first day of the war, we have been clear about who is the victim and who is the aggressor, said Polish President Andrzej Duda in his address to the United Nations on Tuesday. Duda also noted the success of Central and Eastern European countries in bolstering their defense against what he called Russia's imperial policy.
Central and Eastern Europe is well aware of the threat to sovereignty posed by the imperial policy of the Russian Federation. That is why I have been so committed to enhancing our security policy. Over the past 10 years, we have succeeded in intensifying defense cooperation with the Bucharest 9 format. Together with the countries in a region, we have prepared to counter the most challenging threats: Russian hybrid attacks on our borders, sabotage on land at sea, and the worst-case scenario, the full-scale aggression against our neighbor, Ukraine. We reacted jointly and as one of the first to the blatant and brutal violation of international law. From the first day of the war, we have been clear about who is the victim and who is the aggressor, and we have continuously supported Ukraine, which is defending itself against Russia's neo-colonial ambitions.
In Poland, where the issue of Ukraine and its relations with the US is also a topic of heated discussions as the country is headed for a presidential election in May. The main candidates for the country's highest office seem to be split in the middle when it comes to the issue, with the ruling coalition fully supporting Kiev, while right-wing and far-right candidates tapping into anti-Ukrainian sentiments. Where does this split come from? Kazimierz Łysiak has the answer.
While presidential candidates from the ruling coalition in Poland are unequivocally supporting Ukraine,
when it comes to Ukraine and its EU aspirations, all of us should speak in one voice. This is not the time to be attacking each other on this.
I would most likely behave just like Zelenskyy if I was president. They attacked my country and did exactly what the Russians did last week in Poltava, where they bombed a residential block, killing 14 people, including 3 small children.
others, specifically right-wing and far-right candidates, are much harsher in their approach.
The suspension of US aid is first and foremost bad news for both Ukraine and our region, but all of this is the direct result of Zelenskyy's lack of gratitude and his inability to conduct foreign policies.
Ukrainians come to Poland, get free health care paid for by our taxpayers, and then leave. This is medical tourism.
Karol Nawrocki, the candidate backed by the largest right-wing opposition party, Law and Justice, has recently doubled down on anti-Ukraine rhetorics. This is a 180-degree turn for the conservatives in Poland, who were once some of Ukraine's staunchest supporters.
Assuming that we might even know what Karol Nawrocki thinks is, I think, quite brave. I don't think that he has any opinions about anything, first of all, because he's not particularly well educated in, let's say, all those details of international situation.
The right-wing candidate has already changed his stance on the peace talks within just 2 weeks.
I am ready to sit with Putin at the negotiating table. Yes, Poland should break off all diplomatic relations with Russia.
Nawrocki also has far-right Sławomir Mencen breathing down his neck in the polls, while ruling coalition candidate Rafał Trzaskowski continues to look as the most probable winner. The gap between Karol Nawrocki and his far-right competitor is narrowing with every poll. According to experts, voters may look at Nawrocki as a populist copycat.
People might, those who might in the second round vote for Mencen, might reconsider only this will to vote in the second round and actually ask themselves, why don't we vote in the first round for Mencen if Karol Nawrocki basically speaks like him, but he's not genuine in what he tells us?
The Polish government is against sending Polish troops to Ukraine as a peacekeeping force, especially without security guarantees from the United States. The ruling coalition nonetheless continues to stand with Kyiv in its defense against Russia. The same can't be said about the right-wing presidential candidates. Kazimierz Łysiak, TVP World.
Ukraine is looking for a new internet provider, and the European Union could be one to pick up the call. According to Reuters, Eutelsat is in talks with the EU to extend coverage to Ukraine.
While Ukraine has been depending on Elon Musk's Starlink, concerns over his support for Ukraine started to rise following the recent fallout after the Trump-Zelenskyy talks in the Oval Office. The shares of Eutelsat, a French-British satellite group, have tripled over the last 2 days. Other reports indicate that the EU has already discussed GovSatcom, a collective EU satellite service, to replace Starlink.
As countries continue to pledge more support to Kyiv, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said on Tuesday that her country will not be sending any troops to Ukraine.
Her comments came during a TV interview when she was asked about the proposal from France and the UK to send European soldiers as form of a security guarantee. She responded by saying it is very difficult to implement and questioned its effectiveness. Poland is also one of Ukraine's allies that is against sending their own troops.
With the US ceasing military assistance to Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy is desperate and forced to make concessions, stated Charles Grant from the Center for European Reform in an interview with TVP World.
He's desperate. He's desperate that the US doesn't cut off all support for Ukraine, I'm in Brussels, where I heard a very senior person said to me, there's a rumour that Trump will pull out of NATO in the next few days. I think that's probably not true, hopefully, but it's a very febrile atmosphere and everybody's scared that Trump will do something completely crazy. So if Trump and Zelensky, despite their differences, can agree on a deal to allow America to exploit Ukraine's mineral wealth, that gives the US some commitment to the future of Ukraine. It gives it a stake in the future of Ukraine. And that's not a security guarantee, but it is at least the idea that the Americans can be on the ground getting earths out of this Ukrainian soil. So that's more good news than bad news.
The German parties that are set to form a new coalition government plan to overhaul borrowing rules and create a 500 billion euro infrastructure fund, among other initiatives.
The conservative CDU-CSU coalition, victorious in the recent general elections, is holding talks with the Social Democrats. The parties agreed on a special fund that would raise the defense expenditure above 1% of Germany's GDP. Moreover, a reform of the debt brake is expected, as well as the creation of a special infrastructure fund of 500 billion euros. One of the areas to greatly benefit from these plans is Germany's military industry. This comes as Europe is preparing to rearm itself in the light of Donald Trump's volatile stance on supporting Ukraine.
EU internal affairs ministers will gather in Brussels on Wednesday to discuss pressing issues for the bloc, including migration and security policy. Minister Tomasz Siemoniak will be in attendance representing Poland and is scheduled to give the opening remarks. The impact of the current geopolitical situation on the EU's internal security, with a focus on Syria and Ukraine, will be at the top of the agenda of the meeting. The ministers will also discuss the migration crisis, as well as the effectiveness of the Schengen return systems. In addition, they will touch on the subject of the fight against drug trafficking and organized crime. And finally, American actor Jesse Eisenberg is now officially a Polish citizen. He received his citizenship from Polish President Andrzej Duda, who was in New York to address the United Nations General Assembly.
Jesse Eisenberg received his citizenship on grounds of his ancestors, who emigrated to the United States from Poland and Ukraine. His most recent movie, A Real Pain, about two Jewish cousins discovering their Polish roots, was filmed across Poland.
I was walking the streets and starting to get a little more comfortable in the country. It occurred to me that something so obvious occurred to me, which is that my family had lived in this place for far longer than we've lived in New York.
Eisenberg also expressed his appreciation for the Łódź Film School and the historians and educators who work at the former Nazi German extermination camp of Majdanek, which is located near present-day Lublin in eastern Poland.
And that's a wrap for this edition of World News, but please stay tuned to TVP World as World Talks are coming just right after with Diana Skaya. See you soon.